It's time for the Stock Car Show on the Performance Motorsports Network. Powered by the staff at Race Chaser Online. Your motorsports, your way, every day. And now, here's your host, Tom Baker.
Well, it's Monday, and it's Martinsville Monday, and we had somebody get angry after the race. Shocking, isn't it? With that, we start off this edition of the Stock Car Show presented by HMS Motorsport and My Computer Career. Hello, everyone. My name is Tom Baker from Race Chaser Media. I am joined on tonight's program by none other than Cisco Scaramuzza, one of our Midwest correspondents, capably handling the video production of this show and co-hosting as well. And he joins us from Chicago or Indianapolis or somewhere in between. And then we have Randy Miller over in the tech shed doing double duty tonight as both crew chief and co-pilot. And we're going to have Jacob Seelman later on. We got two guests coming up for you. Modified racer Timmy Solomito going to be on the program after a while, as is our infamous friend from the K&N Pro Series West, who is now their champion, Derek Thorne, going to join us as well. With that, we start off tonight's show. Where else would we start tonight's show? With Martinsville and the last lap dust up between Joey Logano and Martin Truex. For those of you who have been under a rock for the last 24 hours or so, Joey Logano and Truex fought for the lead for several laps prior to the end of the race. Truex finally clearing Logano as they came to the white flag, leaving himself vulnerable for what everyone in the world should have known was coming, the infamous bump and run, which Joey did to perfection, I might add, and took over the lead and the win. At the line, Truex crossing the line sideways in third. Denny Hamlin passing him with just feet to go in the race because Truex spun the tires coming off of turn 4 on the last lap trying to drag race Logano to the finish line. So welcome to those of you who are joining us on Facebook Live. And we are going to go right straight around the table here. And I want to know, guys, what you think about the last lap move by Joey Logano. Dirty or clean? Cisco.
I had absolutely no problem with this move whatsoever. I don't think it's a question of dirty or clean because, I mean, it's obvious. If you lay a bumper to someone, some people will consider that dirty. Some people will consider that as just short track racing. I don't think clean is really the adjective that we can use to describe that, because clean would have been nothing happening at all. If you're going to call that move at least okay, or if you agree with that move, it's not clean, it's short track racing. That's exactly what it is. We're at Martinsville. That's what makes these races so exciting. And keep in mind, he moved him up the racetrack. He did not wait. He did not lay off the brake pedal and send him into the corner. He did not wait on him a lap down, turn and put him into the wall. Neither of those things happened. And both of those incidents, of course, I'm referring to the incident last year between Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin, and of course the takedown between Joey Logano and Matt Kenseth. Those I consider more dirty than even this move. And even then, I could understand those situations happening. So, Tom, I have absolutely no problem with this. Joey Logano just locked himself into the Final Four at Homestead. He did what he needed to do, and I think almost had no choice but to do, considering we're going to Texas and Phoenix as the last two races in this playoff segment. Joey Logano had, in my opinion, no other choice. He had to do this.
Our producer extraordinaire, Randy Miller, what say you? Do you agree or disagree with Cisco's take?
Ladies and gentlemen, you guys wanted drama, and that's exactly what you got. So anybody who sits here and says that what Joey Logano did is dirty is not, I don't believe they're a true fan of the sport, because everybody wanted the drama and the dramatic effects of the chase, and this is exactly what you got. Joey Logano knew that the only way that he was going to make it to Homestead was to win a race. And he did exactly what he needed to do. He won a race. Yes, he may have driven Martin Truex a little bit, over the edge, so to speak. But, I mean, Martin's had a very tumultuous, last 5-6 weeks of racing. So, I mean, every little thing is probably going to upset him. But Joey had no choice. I mean, like Cisco said, if he didn't win this race, he wasn't going to Homestead. And that's how dependable these guys are on making it to the final race of the chase. This is how prestigious this championship is. Your willingness to do whatever it takes to win. I'm actually more upset about the way that Martin Truex acted than I am about what Joe Logano did.
Well, I'm going to agree with both of you, and I'm going to take it one step farther. For any of our modified fan base that's in the chat, you guys will remember that back about, 25, almost maybe 30 years now, I can't remember exactly what year it was, 80 or 81, I think it was, at Martinsville in one of the modified races, Richie Evans and Jeff Bodine had the same exact kind of a finish. The two of them got tangled up coming off turn 4. Neither one of them wanted to give an inch, and Richie Evans ended up riding the wall basically at one point and crossed the line and won the race that way. It was one of the greatest finishes I've ever seen at Martinsville, and this one was right up there with it. What Joey Logano did, I saw on social media yesterday, things I learned on social media, one of Cisco's favorite segments to do on these programs, things that I learned on social media. Joey Logano took out Martin Truex. No, he didn't. Martin Truex finished third, and had Truex not spun the tires coming to the finish, it's possible that Truex still could have won. The two cars were together like that in the middle of the racetrack. Joey left him all kinds of room to race. He did exactly what he had to do. You can like or dislike the bump and run. Personally, I love to see racers pass cleanly. But it's the last lap. The championship's on the line here at this point for Joey, because this is the best shot he's likely to have of the next two, to make it to Homestead. He has to take that shot. He didn't wreck him. He did not spin him. He left him a very good chance to win the race. Now, as to Martin Truex's reaction, I'm going to say the same thing that I said after the Roval. Wah! I know he's disappointed. I know that he wanted to win his first short track race ever in NASCAR Cup competition. Well, he had a chance at it. What he should have done is kept Joey on the outside of him and not all the way cleared him. As soon as he got in front of him coming to the white flag, what did you expect Joey was going to do? Martin's reaction, I owe Martin's reaction more to just not being able to get something done that he's been trying to do for years in Cup than I do to actually thinking that Joey seriously did something wrong here. Okay, he just got snookered. He almost got snookered twice. Jimmy Johnson messed up because he just got a little too aggressive and lost control. It is very possible Johnson could have passed Truex cleanly and ended up stealing the Roval away without crashing him. I don't think Martin would have been any less disappointed, honestly. I think it's just the fact that he hasn't been able to win. There's a lot going on with his team right now. He had to start in the back because they couldn't make it through tech. This is a situation where I think what we've done here is we've fired up Martin Truex for the next 2 weeks, so look out for the Furniture Row Racing team, guys. But I don't see anything wrong with what Joey did, and I find it interesting that the NASCAR fan base, which really bases their morality about these things on who's involved, if it's their driver, Randy, who's, who did the bump and run, well, they're fine with that. But somebody like Joey or Kyle, who's controversial, it just always seems to draw a bigger reaction.
I mean, these guys have to understand, as fans, you have to understand, Joey Logano has been behind the big three guys all season long.
Yes.
And actually not just Joey, the entire field.
Yes.
But Joey has been probably one of the 2 or 3 best cars, not aside from the big three. He's been the most consistent, or one of the most consistent guys.
Yep.
It's got to be eating him alive to finish second, third, or fourth of these three every single week for the last 34 weeks of the season. I would be frustrated too. As a former race car driver, I probably would have done the same thing.
Oh,
sorry.
well, look, I mean, Cisco, there's no question that Truex had a right to be upset because, he lost the race. But there's a difference between that and saying that there was something wrong with what Joey did, because Joey actually made that move about as cleanly as he possibly could. He did knock Truex sideways. Truex did that when he spun the tires coming off of 4 and lit it up.
And if you really wanted to gauge how much people wanted to win that race, 75 laps before the race even ended, Brad Keselowski passed his teammate to take the lead of the race, considering Brad's not even in the playoffs, and knowing Joey probably had to win that race to be able to get to Homestead. That's how desperate people were to win at Martinsville. And Brad wasn't even in the playoffs, and he nearly moved Logano in a similar fashion. So what do you guys want to see here? Do you want to see drivers battling it out, or do you want to see clean passing? I think what they want to see is people making those moves, but kind of have the face driver doing it to the heel driver in this case. Tom, as you alluded to, it's as Brad Kay said a long time ago, we're turning into WWE right now. At least the fans are making that.
Well, I've made that point on this show and on Race Chaser Online a number of times in my writing about the fact that there's a part of the fan base, like I said at the top, they look at the morality of a move or something based upon whether they like the people involved or not. It's pretty funny. Joey can't slide Matt Kenseth at Kansas, but Matt can ram him into the wall under a yellow, and that's okay.
And Tom, don't forget, Joey can intentionally take a driver, or Joey can get taken out by a driver, and everyone's okay with that. But if he does something similar, oh no, it's terrible. It's the worst thing ever.
It just all depends. Like it's just funny that it depends on, like I said, who's involved, how the fans judge something. It has nothing to do with. There is no consistency among the fans and their morality when it comes to this stuff, and it's highly entertaining. At any rate, Joey Logano with a win. We've got much more to talk about for Martinsville. We've got Timmy Solomito coming up. And we've also got Derek Thorne from the NASCAR K&N Pro Series West, their champion from this year out west. We'll talk to him a little later on in the program as well. You're listening to the Stock Car Show presented by HMS Motorsport and our new sponsor, My Computer Career. We're going to tell you about them right after this.
You
Hi, I'm Tyler Reddick, and you're listening to Race Talk on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Welcome back to the Stock Car Show presented by HMS Motorsport and our new sponsor, My Computer Career. We're going to tell you about them in a moment. My name is Tom Baker. I am joined up somewhere, over there, somewhere.
The other side.
Yeah, the other side. There we go. I got to get used to looking at myself as a reflection. Over here, we have Randy Miller in the tech shed doing double duty as both producer and co-host tonight. And then down there on the bottom, that is Cisco Scaramuza. And he is also doing double duty, handling the video side of things and co-hosting as well. Jacob Seelman coming up later. We've got also two drivers that we're going to be talking to in the second hour. We've got modified driver Timmy Salamito, who was the subject of a disappointing announcement here recently. So we're going to ask him how that is going to play in his career going forward. And also, we've got NASCAR West champion, NASCAR Pro Series West champion, Derek Thorne, pardon me, coming up later in the show. Hey, we have a new sponsor. We want to tell you about My Computer Career because it's important. Is your job sucking the life out of you? Well, hey, wake up. You can do something else. It's called information technology. I know what you're thinking. I'm not a math and science person. No problem. No excuses either. It's not rocket science. It's My Computer Career. Helping people start an IT career is our thing. If you don't absolutely love what you do, go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. You could start your new life as an information technology professional in as little as just 4 months. Attend classes on campus. They've got 7 of them all over the country, or live online just 2 to 3 times a week to get what you'll need to start your new career. More than just a school, My Computer Career helps you get into the industry. By working with hundreds of employers that hire our students, My Computer Career is nationally accredited, and financial aid is available for those who qualify, including through the GI Bill. Classes start soon, so go take the career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. That's mycomputercareer.edu, mycomputercareer.edu. Welcome to the folks from My Computer Career. We are really happy to have you. And the cool part about My Computer Career is that they also are big racing fans. They have what we know in the Southeast here as the POW MIA Freedom Car. It is a super late model that Jarek Johnson runs about half a dozen times a year or so, but does a lot of functions with POW MIA, American Legions, those kinds of things, and just really, really works well with our troops and those who have served in the past. And they are huge proponents of our military. So want to thank My Computer Career for jumping on board with us as we continue with our program. We've been talking Martinsville, and we debated and all agreed unanimously in our opening segment that Joey Logano did exactly what he needed to do. Not a thing wrong with it, and Martin Truex needs to just man up and go win the next race at Texas. Cisco, speaking of Texas, I was a little bit bemused by Kevin Harvick's post-race comments on the TV broadcast yesterday when he said that he thinks that Texas is his best chance to win his way to Homestead. And the reason I was bemused is because Phoenix has basically been Kevin Harvick land for like 4 or 5 years now. Why does he think Texas is his best shot?
Well, obviously he won there last year in the fall, so he has that going for him. I do think Texas is going to come down to one of the big 3, mainly Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick going into that race. But I think the reason why Harvick's a little bit worried about Phoenix is the same reason kind of we all are, in the fact that, well, the track got flipped. So now the big question is,
that would make sense.
So I'm wondering if that's influencing Harvick a little bit, if he's a little worried that maybe that change might just change a little bit of the strategy on the track and how to drive it. I think that's in the back of his mind. Texas obviously hasn't changed since the spring, so I think that'll help a little bit. But I think in the back of our minds, Tom, keep in mind the track itself is no different. They just flipped it. It's the start-finish line is where basically the dogleg was.
Well,
but just keep in mind that how you drive that track now is going to be a little bit different because of where turn 1 is, where turn 3 are. Yes, they're the same turns, but all of a sudden, the way the lap is laid out is vastly different.
Well, honestly, I think if you're going to, if you're going to look at a track like Phoenix is, okay, now it's a brand new racetrack. I can see why Kevin Harvick is suddenly more confident at Texas. But Randy, this is a driver who's more than proven he can win on any type of track. And I would almost look at Phoenix in a way as now a bit more of a bigger Bristol, perhaps, or maybe a bigger Martinsville. You're going to have some interesting times coming out of turn 4, I think, to the finish line now, the way that everybody kind of funnels in there. Should be interesting, but I'm still a little surprised. But you know what? Kevin Harvick had a good test at Texas, and you put Harvick in a situation where he thinks this is a must-win, look out. He's going to be tough to beat at Texas, I bet.
That's true. I'm almost kind of sad that I'm going to miss the race this year because this is the first year that I haven't been in Texas for the race. But I digress. Anyway, but when you mentioned Harvick's quote, it kind of got me puzzled because I'm thinking, hasn't he won almost half the races this year? I mean, there's not a track that we've been on, I don't think, that he hasn't won it yet. So I don't know why he would. I mean, I see Cisco's point, how Phoenix is almost a brand new racetrack now with the new layout and the way that all the notes that you had previously now don't really mean a whole lot because now everything is completely backwards. So, other than that, I mean, Texas is it's going to be a big 3 type of track, I bet. But, I mean, I don't know how – I kind of see where Harvick is coming from, but at the same time, he's good at every single track we go to, so I don't think he has anything to worry about.
Cisco, who do you see as Harvick's chief competition at Texas then?
Kyle Busch, easily.
Yeah,
I mean, he won there back in the spring, and he won there back in the spring in 2016 as well. He's the only driver who's not named Jimmy Johnson or Carl Edwards, who's won there since 2015. The guy who won in 2014, who kind of breaks that streak, was Joey Logano, so that is something to keep an eye on. Joey has won in Texas in the last 5 years, but just it's going to be hard, I think, to beat Kyle Busch there.
Martin said he wasn't going to win anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to make sure that Logano doesn't make it to the finish line, apparently.
Right. Well, and I should mention that Doug Heveron, who, of course, is a former NASCAR racer and a driver that I've always considered a friend, Doug was listening to our opening segment. I think hopefully is still listening to the show, and commented that he wondered if Martin should have just waited to the last lap and then did the bump and run on Joey instead of racing him clean. His viewpoint is, as a racer, if I race you clean, you better do the same. Okay, so we have someone on the opposite side. And you know what? Dougie is one of the greatest racers I've ever watched strap into a car. So we're going to give Doug his due and allow him that point of view. Doug's been in a few of those slobber knockers over the years with modifieds, and so he certainly knows all about how that deal works. But we continue with our Martinsville recap. Biggest surprise, Cisco, in your mind, biggest surprise from Martinsville yesterday?
How garbage Kevin Harvick was.
Yeah, I agree.
He had they said on MRN during that race the fact that they could not figure out what to do with that car, and considering that we saw Kurt Busch up at the front of the field, and all three of the SHR cars do well at different points in that race, Harvick we never really saw do anything. When you're out, you're out. I picked them last week, but apparently they just had a horrendous weekend. And considering that those 4 cars are all very similar, either I don't know what was going on, but Rodney, you got to get the setup right, man. Come on.
Well, Randy, I would throw Kyle Busch into that too, because it was the same kind of situation for Kyle. When they tried to adjust for one part of the corner, the car went backwards. When they tried to adjust for the other part of the corner, the car went backwards. They could never get a good balance on that car all day long, and he just didn't look like Kyle. The interesting thing is he goes into Texas 46 points back of Joey Logano, but 21 points up on Truex and Harvick, even despite his bad day.
Yeah, you look at the finishing order. I mean, there's not. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, you've got guys like Eric Jones down in 26th. You've got Kyle Larson who finished 37th. William Byron 39th. I mean, these guys are typically not people that are finishing, winning races and finishing in the top 5, but they should still be consistent guys. And then you've got, like you guys said, Harvick and Kyle Busch, like the big 3 guys are nowhere to be found in the top 5 except for Kyle Busch, but I mean he's right back to finish in the top 5. But I mean these guys, typically of what you've seen all season long with the top 3 guys, and going to Martinsville and not seeing them battling for the win is really surprising.
Okay, so next question here is, well, we've got a minute left, so I'm going to pose this, and then we're going to go to break. I'll let you guys think about it. After the break, we'll talk about it. The question to ponder is, looking at now where we're at in the championship playoff standings, is Chase Elliott in a must-win situation after Martinsville? I'm going to let you guys ponder that. We'll talk about it when we come back. You're listening to the Stock Car Show. It's presented by HMS Motorsport, the leaders in motorsport safety. You can visit them on the web at hmsmotorsport.com and My Computer Career. We will be right back.
Hi, this is Austin Terrio, and you're listening to Race Talk on the Performance Motorsports Network. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to the Stock Car Show presented by HMS Motorsport, the leaders in motorsport safety. You can find them on the web at hmsmotorsport.com or visit them in either of their two locations, one in Danvers, Massachusetts, and one right here in Mooresville, North Carolina, just about 5-6 minutes from the Race City USA Race Chaser Studios, where we are broadcasting this show this evening. My name is Tom Baker. I am joined by Randy Miller and Cisco Scaramuzza, both of them busy producing the various aspects of the show as well as co-hosting, and I get to just sit here and talk, so I've got the easy job. And welcome to all of you who have joined us on our Facebook Live broadcast, as well as those of you listening on either Spreaker or the Performance Motorsports Network. You can also get the show on demand, either watching it later on our Race Chaser Media Facebook page, or you can listen on demand at most of the major platforms where you get podcasts: SoundCloud, TuneIn, iTunes, Google Play. We're on Stitcher. We're on, I think, about 8 or 9 different platforms. So on any of those, just search for Race Chaser Radio, and you'll be able to listen. Or, like I said, just watch the show on our Race Chaser Media Facebook page. Continuing our Martinsville discussion, I posed a question before the break. I'm going to get everybody's opinion on this here from our panel. The question is, after the event in Martinsville, are we at a point, with him being now 31 points below the cutoff, is this a must-win situation now for Chase Elliott if he's going to make the championship 4? Randy, I will start with you.
You know, earlier in the show, I was talking about how Chase Elliott and Joey Logano have been two of the best drivers outside of the top 3. And their points have shown that, because they've been able to get away from adversity and still be able to be good. 6 weeks ago, I would have said, no, he's in a no-win situation. But if you look at the point standings right now, he's 42 points behind. That's almost a full race. He is in a dire situation right now. He has to win a race, or he's not going to be, looking for the trophy come Homestead in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Cisco, I want your 2 cents on this too. And I think part of the problem that Chase had, he finished 7th, which isn't a bad day by any means in Martinsville. But you had Truex, Kyle Busch, and Kurt Busch all finish ahead of him, and Joey Logano as well, of course, getting in because he won. So, kind of a situation where he didn't make up very much ground on some of these guys.
Yeah, it's right now 6 points from Chase up to Kurt Busch. And keep in mind, Chase is 6th in the playoff standings as of right now. So he has 6 points just to get to the first driver below the cut line, and then 25 points to the 2 drivers who are tied in Kevin Harvick and Martin Truex Jr. So
Right.
Chase would have to overcome that 31-point gap between Martin Truex and Kevin Harvick in the next 2 races. Are Kevin Harvick and Martin Truex Jr. going to be 15th or worse, or 15 positions behind Chase normally on the racetrack? I doubt it. It would have to be a wreck or something like that. They would have to do that twice in order for Chase to pass them. So for me, yes, the math doesn't add up. Chase has to win.
I'll take this a step farther. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think what you see is the top 4 here. That's who you're going to see at Homestead. I think it's Logano, Kyle Busch, Truex, and Harvick. I don't see Chase Elliott winning at Texas or Phoenix. I don't see Kurt Busch winning. I don't see Clint Boyer winning. And I don't see Eric Almirola winning. I don't see any of those drivers winning one of the next 2 races, although Phoenix is a relative unknown because, as you said earlier, guys, they've flipped the track around backwards. So everybody's kind of going in. It's another one of those outlier situations. But, the top 4 basically have a 25-point advantage over everybody else at minimum. And that's over half a race. Unless one of them really has a bad day, and almost a bad 2 days over the next 2 races. Cisco, I don't see a way that any of these other drivers, short of a win, I don't see the way that they make up the ground.
No, the math doesn't add up. If they were closer on points, if we were talking about a gap instead of 25 with the drivers above the cut line, if it was 5 or 3 or something like that, something closer,
right,
I might buy it. But
I agree.
The points are too big, especially if you're Eric Almirola. You have a 75-point gap. That's nigh and impossible to take care of. Truex and Harvick would basically have to finish stone dead last if you had any shot at all.
Yep. Yeah, and what's interesting about this is now we go into the last 2 races and ask ourselves this question. Okay, let's assume that the top 4 that we see right now, Logano, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, Kevin Harvick, those are your final 4 guys. Okay, I'll start with Randy this time. Which of these 4 guys do you look at right now? And we can adjust as needed after the next couple of races. But which of these 4 would you look at right now as being most likely to succeed at Homestead and win the championship?
If I was a betting man, I would think I would put all my money on Kyle Busch. Just because Kyle has, of the 4, Kyle maybe hasn't won. I think hasn't he won more races than the other 2? I'm pretty sure.
I think he's won more than Harvick in the regular season. But
so other than that, I mean, he's probably one of, if not the most consistent of the 4. So, I mean, obviously going into Homestead, the goal is obviously to win the race. But if you don't win, you just have to finish ahead of the other 3. Obviously, I mean, nothing against Joey, but all 3 of them probably have a good chance of finishing ahead of Joey, especially if what Martin Truex said comes true. I mean, Kyle and Kevin are probably a good toss-up. I mean, you could probably go with either one of them, but I think I'd pick Kyle any day over Kevin.
Martin Truex had the quote of the year after the race yesterday, saying the following: "He may have won the battle. He's not going to win the damn war." That's exactly what he said about Joey Logano. I don't think NASCAR will allow Martin Truex to get revenge on Joey Logano at Homestead. I just don't think that's going to be. I think Martin will be told point blank that would be a really, really unfortunate thing for him to do.
But Tom, what if he does it? Like, obviously he's not going to just. I mean, obviously NASCAR knows he's going to do it. He already said he was. But I think
just because he said he was doesn't mean
that's
he is.
true. But I mean, I feel like it's a case of like it's going to be too little, too late. Like he's gonna do it, and NASCAR's not going to be able to react. At this point, Martin Truex has nothing to lose. He doesn't have a ride for next year.
He does. Hang on.
He does. He has a championship.
That's right. Exactly.
But I mean, in terms of going into 2019, if he knows toward the end of the race, if he knows he's not going to win the championship, he's not going to have anything to lose in terms of making sure that Joey doesn't.
Well, again, it would depend on situation and circumstance, but I will promise you that if Martin Truex interrupts Joey's opportunity to win the championship, NASCAR will make sure Martin doesn't win it either. I can promise you that. Cisco, do you agree or disagree with Kyle Busch at this moment being the favorite?
I still think Kyle Busch is going to be the guy at Texas. It's going to be hard pressed for, I think, Kevin Harvick to overcome that. He's the only other person I would think. So Kyle Busch, I think, is going to be the favorite at Texas. When it comes to Phoenix, I mean, it worries me, Tom, the fact that Kevin Harvick doesn't think that his best track is going to be at Phoenix. I mean, I agree with you in the fact that, I think that that the track's redesign is giving him some pause. But this still, I think, should be Kevin Harvick's best shot to win a race this segment. While there is a track change, and I talked about that earlier, I don't think it's massive enough for that to change the skill gap that Kevin Harvick has at Phoenix. But it does worry me, the fact that he doesn't think that's still there.
Well, I'm going to flip that around on you. It worries me more if I'm the competition that Kevin Harvick thinks he's got a winning car for Texas, because that would suggest to me that I better be watching for the freaky fast Ford at Texas, and we still got to keep him as the favorite for Phoenix. So in other words, this could be a long next couple of weeks for everybody else. I don't necessarily see him being dominant at either track, but the fact that he's so confident going into Texas, a track I would consider to be Kyle Busch territory out of this group, really is interesting to me. And with that, we'll step aside more about Martinsville, more about the playoffs, and we've also got a truck race to talk about as well, and we've got a couple of guests going to be joining us shortly too. More of the Stock Car Show presented by HMS Motorsport and My Computer Career right after this.
Hi, I'm Ben Rhodes, and you're listening to the Performance Motorsports Network, the voice of motorsports.
See, that's my era of music right there. Jim Croce, Bad Bag Leroy Brown, bringing us back from the break. Ben Rhodes, and Ben was involved in the truck race on Saturday at Martinsville, which was won by Johnny Sauter. Shocking. Not. Johnny, that was about his, Cisco, 97th Martinsville win or something in the truck. I'm exaggerating, but only by a little.
He's the most winningest driver in the truck series at Martinsville.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I'm picking on him, but Johnny definitely drove his heart out on Saturday. That was an unusually mundane truck race, I thought, in the sense that everybody was very respectful of each other. It didn't feel like everybody was on the edge so much like we are used to seeing in the truck races there. A lot of good racing, but everybody was kind of easy going to get it, I thought, for a lot of the race. So, Randy, looking at the truck race finish on Saturday, Sauter getting the win, Brett Moffitt, talk about a guy who comes up big when he needs to, trying to keep himself going for the rest of the season. I had a chance to talk to Brett on Friday, and honestly, we both discussed the fact that they had such a struggle to get sponsors. Again, he goes to the racetrack. He didn't win, but he finished second, and that's good enough to keep him going in the playoffs here, going to Texas with a shot at it still.
Yeah, it blows my mind that a guy like Brett Moffitt can't get a full-time sponsorship, especially when he's won, 2 races or 3 races already just in the last, 10 weeks or so. And that team's struggling to try to get funds to run the full season when he's in the midst of winning a championship. I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, if there's anybody out there, we just had somebody in South Carolina win $1 billion. Somebody somewhere.
Yeah, really.
Can afford to pay this man some money for the next couple of weeks at least to get him through to Homestead so he can go and win the championship. And to me, I know Johnny Sauter has been, the most dominant person probably in the Truck Series this year.
Oh, yeah.
But I would love to see Brett Moffitt win the championship without a sponsor and without plans that are firm for 2019. That would be totally awesome.
Well, yeah, and he's Brett's good, I think, for the balance of the season funding-wise, but he definitely needs something to happen for 19 for sure.
You never can have too much money.
No, not at all. And that team is maximizing every dollar, and Brett is just driving the wheels off that truck.
Right.
Myatt Snyder, a great run to finish in third with his ThorSport truck, and Myatt, a driver who's been up front quite a lot this year, but hasn't had the results to show for it.
It's because he was on the show.
Yeah, that's right. His recent appearance on the show is what got him that look. Mm-hmm. We'll take credit anyway. Finished in third, and Ben Rhodes, who brought us back for the break, finishing in fourth. Kyle Benjamin, who I had a chance to sit and chat with on Friday as well, and we'll have a video clip from that tomorrow on Race Chaser Media on the Facebook page. Kyle finishes up in fifth in one of the 2 DGR Crosley trucks that were in action. The other one was driven by Tyler Ankrum, who finished 18th in his Truck Series debut. As far as other playoff drivers, Justin Haley crossing the line in 6th, Noah Gregson finishing up in 7th. And I got to tell you, we talked to Noah for quite a while as well. And there's a driver who over the last few weeks, I think somebody has kind of gotten to him a little bit. And
Junior, maybe.
And I say that, well, it could be Junior, it could be Rudy Fugle, it could be both, it could be a lot of people.
It could be.
But Noah was remarkably different at Martinsville when we spoke with him. Just the way that he was talking about how he was going to approach this race, and really the rest of the season, just trying to make sure that he puts his team in position to win the championship at Homestead and doesn't take his team out of a position to win the championship at Homestead. Really talking about driving smart, using his head, just a very different Noah. Very relaxed, very calm, still jovial, and still kind of that Noah sense of humor. He was in a press conference with a couple of his teammates on Saturday morning, and basically
Noah from NoahGregson.com.
Yeah, that was the highlight of the day. He played the part of Jeff Gluck, only NoahGregson.com, and basically asked his teammates, I think this was Friday actually, now that I think about it, asked his 2 teammates, which of you is going to finish behind the 18 truck tomorrow? And, of course, Todd Gilliland said right away without missing a beat, if we're coming off turn 4 on the last lap and I'm second, I'm not finishing behind the 18 truck tomorrow, which got a laugh out of everybody. But, again, just a different presentation for Noah Gregson and a good, consistent run for him to finish in 7th. And then Matt Crafton, 13th, Grant Enfinger finishing in 14th. Now, as we look at the Truck Series playoff standings, guys, Johnny Sauter, I'm sure we can all agree if we were going to pick a favorite, it would be Sauter. But then the question becomes, if not Sauter, then who steps up as a driver who stands out for you guys, and I'll start with Randy, as the driver most likely to succeed and win the championship right now in the Truck Series if it's not Johnny Sauter?
I'm going back to Brett Moffitt, just because he has so much, A, momentum, and B, he has so much that he needs to gain and wants to gain from putting his eyes out and putting his face out there in the public eye and saying, look, if you give me the money to have a full-time sponsorship, this is what you can get, with your dollars on a truck for an entire season next season, and that would give him a good position to go out in 2019. and then defend said championship should he win it. But if it's not him, then Justin Haley would be my second pick. But I'm all for Brett Moffitt winning the championship.
Cisco.
I gotta go with the team that I think as a whole is going to have the tech to be able to get them there in the end. And for me, that's still going to be Noah Gragson because of that KBM connection. I think driver for driver, I think Johnny Sauter is going to be better at Homestead. If all the equipment was the same and it was just down to drivers alone, I would say Sauter would have a little bit better of a chance. But I think Gregson's team will be able, assuming he can get to Homestead, and he's in a good position to do so right now, but still assuming that he can get to Homestead,
yeah,
I like that team at that 1.5-mile racetrack.
This is an interesting dilemma for me because I picked Justin Haley last week to win the championship. I went ahead and said he's going to win it all. I thought he would have a better run at Martinsville than he did. He didn't do poorly at all. He had the speed, but there were a bunch of trucks that had the speed, and that was the problem. Nobody could really pass anybody. Justin, he would run inside the top 5, then fall out by 1 or 2, inside the top 5, fall out by 1 or 2. But here's the problem he's got now. He's sitting 5th in the points. He's 53 points off the lead, and what's worse for him is he's only got 14 playoff points right now. Because he hasn't had any stage wins. So I feel like now Justin, even though he's been running really well as of late, and especially in the playoffs here, I feel like he's got to win. Or, he's going to be in danger here of missing the cut. Now, if he gets to Homestead, I think he's got as good a shot as anybody. I do agree with both of you that it's going to come down, I think, at this point, although I still want to believe in Justin, and I do, but he's got to get there now. And I believe it's going to be Gregson and Moffitt chasing Johnny Sauter here. And I didn't like Noah's chances as much going into Martinsville as I like them right now because I like the new attitude and the new approach that Noah has. If he can just not beat himself, he's got a good shot at this. Second in the points right now. He's got 10 stage wins. He's got 25 playoff points, 2 less than Moffitt, we might add. Sauter, though, has accumulated so many playoff points. He's got 15 more than Moffitt, who's second in that category. That it's going to be very difficult, I think, to overcome that. But when we get to Homestead, it's all about winning a race or finishing ahead of the other 4. If Haley gets there, I think he's got a good shot. If Haley doesn't get there, then I think if I'm going to pick somebody besides Sauter, I'm going with Noah Gragson. But Moffitt certainly, this could be the most interesting Homestead truck race that we've ever had, Randy, because, my gosh, just look at Sauter, Gragson, and Moffitt, just those 3. Never mind who gets in there right now. It's Grant Emfinger sitting in 4th. But if Haley can get in there, or someone else can sneak up. But, I think just those 3 alone at Homestead, especially if they're all on their game and the trucks are running well, boy, you want to talk about some bumping and running. That could be a real interesting race.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Somebody would have to look up the record for the number of lead changes in a truck race at Homestead. But you're looking at 3 drivers who can definitely battle back and forth for the win at Homestead that Friday night. And you do pit stops and all that stuff, combined, and we're talking probably a record-breaking, lead change type of. I can even see a 3-wide finish type thing with these guys, if it comes down to real, it comes down to it, because all 3 of them have at least a decent chance.
I'll tell you, that'd
be awesome.
Either Emfinger or Haley going into that situation as the 4th truck, you would have an amazing duel to the finish. And if you could get, like I said, if you could get all 4 of them running equally well, that Homestead race could be a real barn burner. Mm-hmm. So, I'm excited to see where the Truck Series is going, but they got 2 more races to get through, one at Texas, one at Phoenix. This is going to be real interesting. Now, we're going to talk about the Xfinity Series a little bit later in the program, because we need to step aside. When we come back, we've got our first of two guests joining us here via the Race Chaser hotline. It's Timmy Solomito from the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. He's on deck, ready to go full throttle with us on the Stock Car Show right after this.
You own a performance.
Hi, I'm Timmy Salmito, and you're listening to Race Talk on the Performance Motorsports Network. Now back to the show.
That's fun watching him do that.
Yeah.
It's like I mentioned Tasmanian Devil during the commercial
Yeah, the
break. He's like,
Tasmanian Devil has just arrived here.
We heard him coming during the when the commercial break started. We heard him drive up.
He is
That's
dressed.
how loud he was.
He is dressed for Halloween as Jacob Seelman from Speed Sport magazine.
He's out of breath too, apparently.
We need. I think we need to give Jacob some mic volume here. Welcome back to the Stock Car Show. This is our second hour.
We just need to give Jacob some oxygen.
Exactly.
We need to put him in the ceiling where they drop down in front of us like an airplane when it loses, you know.
For those who wonder where the heck Jacob's been for the last hour, Jacob has been up the road about 15 minutes at Millbridge Speedway, which is a little 6 mile or so dirt track that is currently hosting the 72 Hours of Outlaw Karting, otherwise known as one of the coolest events that's ever been held here. I make fun of it just because, well, that's what I do. But it's the Keith Kunz Motorsports Give Back Classic. And what that means is Keith Kunz Motorsports set this event up, invited a bunch of outlaw kart racers in who are not accomplished in other parts of the sport. In other words, Kyle Larson's not eligible for this one because the grand prize is that the winner of this thing is going to get a Chili Bowl ride with Keith Kunz Motorsports.
Super cool.
Hence the name Give Back Classic.
Correct. Now, there is one caveat to this before we bring our, I think, guest on.
Yes, we have Timmy Solomito
Good.
in the pits waiting to come out and race with us.
So in just a second, before we bring Timmy Solomito out, let me add the caveat to this is if this driver who wins the race Wednesday night is not 16 by the time Chili Bowl is set to run, then they get a ride with Keith Kunz Motorsports at another event during the year that their age allows them to run. Because the age restriction for Chili Bowl is you have to be 16.
Well, that would be depressing.
It wouldn't be, though.
I mean,
think.
it would. Look, anytime you get
Yeah.
to drive a Keith Coons midget, it's a
It's
great
great.
opportunity, but there's only one Chili Bowl.
Correct.
Only one Chili Bowl. And Roy Hayes has been with us in our chat here for a little bit.
He's eligible.
Roy's son, Roy R3.
Yes, R3.
Roy Hayes.
So we had R2 in the chat.
Yeah,
Okay.
R2 is in the chat. Roy Hayes among those trying to chase that
Correct.
Chili Bowl prize, and he is, I believe, age eligible.
Yes, he would be.
So, yeah. So we'll see how that works out. We wish all the racers good luck.
Let's talk some modified.
Yes, let's talk modifieds. On pavement, Timmy Salamito been very patient with us while we got through that opening.
If only Timmy could. Hey, I think I would have made Timmy proud with as fast as I came flying.
Yeah,
in
the
here.
hurricane that blew in here. Timmy, welcome to the Stock Car Show. Once again, good to have you back on the program, and good to talk to you again.
Great to be back, guys. Good to hear from you. How's everything?
Well, everything is good now that Jacob has caught his breath now.
Yeah.
We can talk some modified racing. Now, look, I hate to start with the current situation because it sounds, at least from us as fans, and obviously, we want the drivers, all of you guys, to succeed. Starrett not returning to the fold for 2019. That's the news that came out here recently. What does that do to your program for next year? Talk a little bit about kind of how that has come down and what that's going to do to your Wheel and Modified Tour program for 19.
Yeah, certainly. First and foremost, all of us at Flamingo Motorsports are very thankful for what Starrett has done for our team and everybody involved. So, they supported motorsports for 3 or 4 years, and they had a great impact on our team and many others. And it'll be sad next year to start without him, but thankful for everything that they did, and I wish them the best of luck. And they're still welcome to come and hang out at the track. And we met a lot of great people through their company, and we hope to keep them as fans. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, I'm very lucky to drive for a great car owner, Eric Sanderson. The news of Starrett leaving hasn't really changed much of our program for 2019. We have great owners and a great team, and everybody's stepping up to the plate to make things better. So we ordered some new rides for 2019, and the boys are working diligently to make them all prepped and ready to go for next year. So we haven't slowed down at all. The race season started. We actually had a terrible last weekend of racing at Thompson. We ended up wrecking our primary car in qualifying. We had a left rear tire come off the beat and junked that one to the point where it's not able to be fixed. So that one got stripped down and cut up and sent to the scrapyard, and ended up in another melee of my own fault in the opening laps at Thompson in the race. So, we're just working on next year, and already got new cars ordered, and the boys are already at the shop working. So all is good for 2019.
Timmy, how do you rebound both mentally and kind of from a team morale standpoint after a year that, by your own standards and certainly by your own admission at different times through the year, was not the strength that you guys have been accustomed to the last couple of years?
Yeah, we've had, since I really, strapped into the 16 team with Flamingo and Sly, we really haven't really struggled. So, you have years like that. You have years that set you back a little bit and just makes you push harder for next year. So, basically just got to spend more time with the team. Going to go up there a couple times in the winter, a couple times a month, and rebound and build a morale and get things set forward to where they need to be, and just work on our program and not worry about anybody else. That's really all you can do. I mean, my guys never gave up all year. It's easy when you're winning races and running in the top 3 every week and qualifying on poles. That's when it's easy. It's when you're struggling that it becomes a lot more difficult. And you need the guys to stick behind you, and they have. And we'll rebound from it. It's just we had one of those years. We just couldn't hit anything right. Couldn't get anything where we needed it to be. We weren't on the right. We just weren't in the right areas where we needed to be all year. On the track, just everywhere. It just struggled. So we're making some changes and doing the best that we can to get back up front.
With the way you ended 17, you mentioned how some of the highs were at the end a year ago. Were you surprised at the downtick, at the change this year that you guys had to weather?
I mean, not really. I mean, you see this happen all the time. I mean, look at Jimmy Johnson. You know, I mean, the guy goes out and wins, and now he can't even get out of his own way. You know, I mean, the sport that we're in is just very humbling, and you could be on the top tomorrow, and you could be on the bottom the week after. I mean, my dad always told me, you know, you're only as good as the last couple laps that you raced. So I couldn't be truer. I mean, you gotta fight for it. You gotta work hard. You know, what you put in is what you get out, and you know, I just gotta dig a little bit deeper, work harder, and you know, just set forward what we want to do for next year, and go out and accomplish those goals. That's what we've done in years past, and you know, it was going so well that, you know, maybe we got too used to it. You know, I mean, it happens, and you know, it humbled us, and now we're back set and ready to go. We're working hard to find that speed and to get back up front.
What is the sponsorship situation for you guys for next year? With Starrett leaving, do you guys have anything locked down as of yet that you can talk about, or is that something that we'll expect to hear more about later into the winter?
Yeah, we're still working on a few things, but you know, our normal guys are back for next year. Flamingo Motorsports, R&B Enterprise, you know, those are our two biggest backers, and they've been with the team for 30 years. So, you know, you can't knock that. I mean, guys that have been in the sport for so long, they've seen the ups, they've seen the downs, and they don't go anywhere. You know, like I said, it's easy when the going's good. It's a lot harder when the going's not that good. So they've always been behind us, and they've always provided us with the best that they could. And you know, we're thankful for that at Flamingo Motorsports, and you know, we're going to give them the best 2019 that we possibly can.
Timmy, this is kind of the time when we look at, you know, what can we do different for next year. I'm curious in terms of rules, procedures, schedule, whatever. What is there anything that if you could, you would like to see the Whelen Tour change or do differently for 2019?
I think they're doing a great job. I mean, I wouldn't want to race on any other series. I mean, you know, you see a lot of these other modified series that pop up here and there. Yeah, it's cool to go race, but it's just kind of almost a glorified Saturday night type deal, you know. There's just something about the Whelen Modified Tour that that's where you want to be. You know, you don't really want to go and run those glorified Saturday night shows, even though they do help you and they make you better. But you know, at the end of the day, you want to be racing on the Whelen Modified Tour, no matter what type of modified you're driving elsewhere. So I think they're doing a great job. I think you know, the series as a whole just has everything together, and you know, it's good tight racing. I mean, you know, you hear all these guys, these naysayers that say, "Oh, you're back 20 years ago, it was way better. This, that, and the other thing. The racing was way better." You know, and they bash what we have now. You know, guys back then, they could buy Hutter motors. They could spend 50, 60 grand on a motor, you know, where other guys could only spend 40. Now everybody's got a spec engine. You know, everybody's got the same cars. That equalizes it so much that the driver really comes into effect, and it, you know, it makes it tough on us. You know, and there's a lot of people out there that say, "Oh, the racing's so boring," or this, that, and the other thing, but they don't step back and look at the big picture.
Well, I know for you the big picture, Timmy, certainly isn't possible without a lot of supporters. You've mentioned a few of them over the course of this segment, but want to give you one more chance to give any shout-outs or thank yous to all those who make it possible for Timmy Salamito to get to the racetrack.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, first and foremost, my family. I mean, they've been behind me. I've been racing 20 years, and I don't think they've missed a weekend. I mean, they support me in everything I do, and you know, coming back, good, bad, other. They've always been there to cheer me on, whether I've plucked it in the fence or I've been in victory lane. So wouldn't be myself without them. And you know, Eric Sanderson's been behind me for 4 years now, going on our 5th year together. That was a dream come true. I mean, the day I got that phone call, it was like hitting the lottery for myself and my family, my parents. You know, they sacrificed so much to get me where I am, and you know, just can't say enough about Sly and everybody, Jerry up at the shop. I mean, those guys really put in a lot of hours. Paul Less, the entire Less family. You know, they've been with the team for 30 years before me, and they've been behind us the entire time. You know, we got Flamingo Motorsports, Sanderson McLeod Brushes, Diversified Metals, Bob Bruno Race Engines, Troy Race Cars, JRI Shocks, SSR Suspension. Who else do we got? We got Tom Strupp. He's Heinz Performance. He's always helping us out. Kevin Hughes at RE. Waddell Communications. The list goes on and on. It really takes an army to be able to be out there every week, and lucky to have such good support and good backbone to keep us going, even when we have a pretty rough year.
Well, we're definitely happy to hear that nothing changes as to your plans for next year with the loss of Starrett Tools, and we certainly wish you all the best. We hope you have a great Thanksgiving and holiday season, and we'll look forward to catching up with you here a little bit later on in the winter when we can talk a little longer.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thank you for having me on.
That's Timmy Salamito, and we're going to step aside. When we come back, we go K&M Pro Series West racing.
With the champ.
Derek Thorne going to join us right around the turn. You're listening to the Stock Car Show, presented by HMS Motorsport and My Computer Career. We will be right back.
How to be a great dad in
Number nothing Chevrolet for JD Motorsports, and you're listening to Race Talk on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Or as they say in the South, nuttin'.
Nuttin', honey. That used to be a commercial. But anyway, welcome back to the Stock Car Show, presented by HMS Motorsport, the leaders in motorsport safety, and by our new sponsor, My Computer Career. Hey, I got a question. Is your job sucking the life out of you? Wake up. You can do something else. Information technology. I know what you're thinking, but I'm not a math and science person. Well, no problem and no excuse. It's not rocket science. It's My Computer Career. Helping people start an IT career is their thing. If you don't absolutely love what you do, go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. You can start your new life as an information technology professional in as little as 4 months. Attend classes on campus or live online just 2 to 3 times a week to get what you'll need to start your new career. My Computer Career, nationally accredited. Financial aid is available. for those who qualify, including the GI Bill. Classes start soon, so go take the career evaluation test now at mycomputercareer.edu, mycomputercareer.edu. Again, mycomputercareer.edu. And, oh, by the way, we have a guest waiting for us.
We do.
On the Race Chaser Hotline, our second of this program.
Can I introduce him?
Sure,
Since
go
I
ahead.
haven't been here.
You
Awesome.
introduce him. Yeah.
He is the driver who stepped away from full-time racing, about 5 years ago after
did.
winning a championship, and he got bored eventually, so he decided he was going to come back with Bob Brancati Racing, and, well, he went out and won another
And
championship.
we hope now that he's won another championship, he's not going to walk away again.
Well, I guess we'll find out in just a minute. Let's bring him out of the pits and have him go full throttle with us. Derek Thorne, for the first time, welcome to the program, and I guess I'll start right there. This championship isn't going to drive you away again, is it?
I hope not, man. Thanks for having me on. I've actually, I was retired from the K&N Series, but I still have been competing full-time in super late competition for a gentleman out of Bakersfield, California for the last 4 or 5 years.
Tell us about that a little bit before we get to the K&N stuff.
Byron and Carol Campbell here out of Bakersfield. I was working for Junior Joyner, Matt Crafton's crew chief currently here in Bakersfield. This is a fabricator, and came across Byron and Carol, and they wanted to go run what we consider it's called the SRL Southwest Tour Series, which used to be the old NASCAR Southwest Tour version back in the day. So the Spears Manufacturing picked that up, and it's about a 10-race schedule. We run mostly here kind of in the southwestern part of the United States, but we've won 3 or 4 championships in the last 4 or 5 years, so it's been a good little run. Get to go back around the Derby with them here at the end of this year, so we always get to kind of go and run some of the bigger money shows, I guess, towards the end of the season, like the All-American 400 or Snowball Derby.
So what was the nudge or the push that told you this is the right time to go back to Bob and say, let's do this again?
You really never know. It was Bob just called me up. He's been having kids, kids with, I guess, he's been renting his rides out, more or less, and I'm not the driver that has that kind of money. So, whenever he calls or has the opportunity, I'm more than willing to listen. But, without his help and support, him and Maureen Brancati's support, it wouldn't be possible. So for them to call me up, give me the opportunity, we sat down at the beginning of the year, and it's one thing to plan and have a game plan going into a season. But obviously you never can predict the future, so, we'd be doing something else with life. But started the season off on the right foot. And just every race, we kind of made the most of each one and came out on top.
The last 3 years, it's been Bill McAnally's Toyota team that's really had the hot hand and dominated the K&M West Series. And I know Bob told me at the banquet last year, we're looking for a spark. And it felt like you and Ryan Partridge together kind of brought that this year. Was it something that as a group collectively you guys found this year, or just a matter of maybe a little veteran experience on your part?
I think it's a little bit of everything. When you have younger kids, say kids that bring money, a lot of times you don't get a whole lot of feedback behind the wheel. And as a program, it strives on information and development and trying to make your team better as far as chassis and setups go. And I think Ryan and myself, we were never teammates before. I never knew him that well. But when we hit it off, our team dynamic, in my opinion, between Ryan and myself and Trevor Huddleston and Bill Sedgwick and Jeff Schrader and Clinton Cram, I felt like that was our one secret weapon that, most people underestimated, was the amount of time and energy we all spent together trying to make sure, each and every team was running its best capacity each and every week. And I think that was one thing that really catapulted, Ryan's past success and information and his input behind the wheel, and mine as well, just kind of helped keep our team, running the best it could each week. 2
wins this year, and I'll ask you, of the 2, you had one at Colorado and a second at Evergreen. Which one for you was the most memorable? Because I know both of those were particularly exciting races for the series.
It was, and actually I'm going to veer away from that. I think some of the most exciting racing, at least for us as a team, we went to some tracks this year, the dirt track being included, Gateway Motorsports Park, Iowa. In the Iowa Gateway type tracks were our Achilles heel back in 2013. Like, we showed up to those. The K&N East and West were scored separate. So even though I was in the West Series, if I finished 15th, I'd get 4th or 5th place points, depending on how I finished amongst those group of drivers. And going into this season, they no longer do that. They combine everybody. So I really felt like I was going into those races, just anything in the top 10 would have been a great success. And we came home with a 2nd at Iowa and a 3rd at Gateway. And I feel like those 2 results, even though they weren't in the win column, were just as special as the wins we had this year.
Now, you mentioned that. You had 2 wins, but here's the stat that blew my mind when I looked it up. Your first championship, you had 14 top 10s in 15 races, an average finish of 4th. This year, I couldn't believe it that when I said this, but you bettered that. 14 top 10s, 13 top 5s in 14 races, and an average finish of 3rd. Your worst finish all year was 8th on the road course at Sonoma. I mean, did you feel like there was some magic to this season? Because that kind of a run just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I was telling my wife the other day, you have to have a lot of lady luck on your side, and there's no doubt about it. The guys in the shop gave us great equipment. There's no denying that. Bill Sedgwick has worked his ass off all season. Sorry, I hope I can say the A word on your radio broadcast. My apologies. But, it comes down to a lot of lady luck. There's some situations throughout the season where we could have been really caught up in some gnarly stuff or stuff that didn't want to pan out in our direction, but everything always kind of fell back into place. Like we almost lost a lap at Iowa. But when the yellow came out, the leader ran out of fuel, so we got our lap back. We were a lap down at Roseville. I had to pass one more guy for a lucky dog. I couldn't get around him. He got a flat tire, and I got the lucky dog because he got the flat tire. We got spun under green at the dirt track, and no caution came out. And we fell to the back, but the caution came out at the right time. And there was 4 or 5 or 6 instances all year where our bad finishes, we could have been a 10th to 15th place finish, and it turned into a top 5 somehow. And those are the kind of weekends I think that make a championship season. And those happened a lot, and then lady luck was on our side for sure for many of them.
I gotta ask you, Derek, about the dirt track, because we had our opinions of that race after watching it. What was it like for you? Because it just basically looked like, I'm from the upstate central part of New York State where we measure snow in feet and get whiteouts frequently during the winter. That's kind of what it reminded me of, is driving in Oswego during a whiteout. Was it really that bad for you guys on the track?
No, it wasn't. It's something different. It's tough. I don't know, being the Midwest or the Northwest or any place that gets moisture, tracks are heavy clay and compact and have a lot of grip. And, it's Vegas in the late part of summer, and, the places doesn't take a lot of water. So we went into it kind of knowing it was going to be a dry, slick type deal, but it was kind of neat as it took rubber. And as it took rubber, it became more racy. And, I think it was just one of the races of attrition, and that was one of the big races I think we have circled on our calendar, because it's easy to show up. Everybody and their grandma was going to that one. There were 25 or 30 almost on the entry list. So that was one race we just wanted to get through unscathed, because a bad night there, obviously, would be a big kick to the points. But I really enjoyed it. It's something different. It's I commend NASCAR for throwing us in that situation and letting us kind of get our feet wet and something a little bit, off base of what we normally do.
So one more question before we give you a chance to say some thank yous. You're now a 2-time champion of the K&M Pro Series West, and there's not a whole ton of drivers that can say they've won multiple championships in the series. What does it mean to you to join that fraternity and to become one of those select group of drivers to represent this series more than once?
I feel like it's a humbling experience, and in my situation, there's been drivers out there, when you're given a break, you're given an opportunity by team owners or people that own their own teams, such as Maureen and Bob Brancotti, or the gentleman I drive for here, Byron and Carol Campbell. You almost want to pinch yourself a little bit. There's so many kids around the country that deserve shots, deserve chances, and sometimes you just luck into the right place, right time with the right people, and it's just a team effort. It's to be a champion. I feel like I'm helping carry the banner for the Sunrise Ford Racing team. They deserve it. They put all the work in, and I feel like the championships we get, it's for them. And I'm just humbled to be the one getting to pilot or get to be the guy behind the wheel, being the face of it.
Well, before we let you go, get a chance and say some thank yous here to some of the sponsors and supporters that help you and the Sunrise Ford team make it possible.
No, absolutely. I appreciate it. Yeah, Bob and Maureen Brancotti, biggest. Bill Sedgwick, can't thank him enough. Everybody on the 6 and 9 and the 22 teams this year, hats off to them for sticking behind us. There were some weekends there where we weren't 100%, and the 9 or 22 would help us out with setups in order to get us back going in the right direction again. But iBox Springs is a big supporter of ours this year. Lucas Oil, all those people that help keep our team going in the right direction. I just can't thank them all enough.
Well, we understand, is it your wife's birthday tonight?
Yeah, I'm actually sitting outside a little place called the Noodle Bar here in Bakersfield, California. I got my wife and kid and family and stuff inside there. We're waiting to get a little party going.
Well, we certainly appreciate your wife allowing us to borrow you for a while to talk some racing. We're really excited to finally get you on the program, and we'd like to bring you back a little bit later on in the winter if we can, and talk about what plans you may have for 19 and spend a little more time with you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, guys. The honor is all mine. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys supporting the series and supporting racing and doing what you guys do.
That's 2018 NASCAR K&M Pro Series West champ Derek Thorne, and we're going to step aside when we come back. More race talk. We still got another 30 minutes here, so don't go anywhere. You're listening or watching the Stock Car Show, presented by HMS Motorsport, My Computer Career. Be right back.
Parents, your son
Hi, I'm Cole Custer, and you're listening to the Performance Motorsports Network, the voice of motorsports.
Welcome back to the Stock Car Show, presented by HMS Motorsport and mycomputercareer.edu. Tom Baker, Jacob Seelman, and we've got somewhere there. I keep pointing.
I'm the one that points.
I'm terrible at. Well, I did earlier, but I
I'll
have
turn
to.
it on, Tom, when you point to the right box. It'll
Yeah,
force
I
you
have
point
to.
to the right box.
I have
he
to
has
remember
to point
that.
at me.
Yeah, basically, it looks. I guess I'm going that way. So up there somewhere.
No,
is Randy
down,
Miller.
Randy's
Cisco is down on the bottom. I knew where I was going. I
Okay.
just needed to be able to anyway. We're still.
Yeah.
I'm still. I'm
You're
old
still
trying to figure out.
and we're
Trying to
talk,
figure out
yeah.
how to be a reflection on the Facebook conversation.
called a
all that.
mirror.
Yeah. Mirror image. Anyway,
Cars Tour?
let's get back to racing. We're going to talk Cars Tour
Yeah,
here.
let's do that.
Something I know something about. And the Cars Tour, Cisco knows something about it too. He's been filming them all this year.
Mm-hmm.
The Cars Tour are running their season finale this weekend at Sobo, South Boston, one of my favorite tracks, and hoping that the weather holds out well because I really want to go up there and see that show at Sobo. It should be a lot of fun, actually. And I guess I'll start with this. You've got two divisions racing. It's a 250-lap night, 125 each. You've got two divisions racing, and I don't see this, Cisco, as so much being just about crowning champions. I think this is going to be a war on both sides of the Cars Tour, the Supers and the late model stocks, because you've got drivers on both sides that have had seasons of frustration who haven't really gotten to where they want to be, and not necessarily a shot to win the title, but they could darn sure go out and try to win a race to close it out.
No, certainly the driver that comes to mind on the late model stock side of things who's been in position and just had the world come crashing down on top of him has been Lane Riggs, because he's been in position several times to go out and win races, and a wreck here, a wreck there. And that's just kind of been their season. It's not been the season they've wanted, even outside of the Cars Tour that we saw, for instance, in the Rodney Cook Memorial, to where he got taken out early in that race too. So it has been a trying year, I would say, for the entire Riggs crew. And on the side of the super late models, I think someone that we've wanted to see do a little bit better and just hasn't. And part of that coming from not running every single race, but I think someone I'm looking to see what they're going to try and do has been Corey Heim. Just from the fact that he's still in the points battle, kind of. He's 21 back. Yeah. But it's been another season where he's just kind of been,
Can I add on to Corey Heim?
Yes, please, because if you didn't, I was going to. But go ahead. I'll let you do it.
He should be a 3-time late model stock winner and has 0 trophies to show for it.
Oh, that wasn't where I was going. I was going to say
that 2
Corey,
super late model, 1 late model stock.
Well, Corey Heim also has an additional incentive here because Corey Heim just made an announcement.
Oh, yes, he's going ARCA racing.
He's going ARCA racing next year to Chad Bryant. Is it Motorsports? Chad Bryant Motorsports? Racing. Chad Bryant Racing. Yep. And that's going to be a good deal for Corey.
That's
I think
big.
I think he's ready for it. I think he's proven it. And as you said, Jacob, he doesn't have the results to show for the performance, but those are exactly the two drivers, Cisco, that I would be watching for. I'm going to give you another name that I'm not sure if he'll contend for the win, but I do think it's going to be fun to watch, making his late model stock debut on the Cars Tour. But having run once in the super lates this year is Minnie Tyrell. He's a Virginia native. He's going to be making his debut on the stock side of the ledger for the 125-lapper there. And I think definitely he can race well at South Boston. And then, of course, Sam Mayer running out of the Junior Motorsport stable as well this coming weekend. Sam's only got 1 win, and he's had a lot of good performances, and again, not a lot of results to show for it. But Sam has proven himself at every single level that he's raced at this year, from late models to super late models to K&N to ARCA, Jacob.
Yes.
I see no reason why Sam Mayer doesn't go to South Boston. And after not the kind of outing he wanted the first time there, I don't see any reason he doesn't go there and race for a win this weekend.
Well, absolutely. He just came off finishing second to teammate Josh Berry at the Fall Brawl at Hickory. And I want to clarify a point that we made earlier on Corey Heim. He's racing in the Cars Super Late Model Tour, but my point actually stood. The 3 races that he's had ripped from him this season were, in fact, late model stock car races as opposed to super late model races. Twice at South Boston, he swept a pair of twins, Cisco, and was thrown out in tech inspection. And then, of course, the Martinsville 300, which we all have our opinions on that. We're not going to get into that debate, but coulda, shoulda, woulda, didn't.
Right.
So I would argue at this point he just wants any big race that he can win and end the season on a strong point, and a super late model would be as good a thing as any. But I think your point about Sam Mayer, Tom, and Cisco's kind of questioning it in our chat already. JRM, are they going to show up or poof?
Because, I mean, they've been around these last 3 races. Josh has won 2 of the last 3. Sam won in Raleigh,
Yep.
so we know that they have speed now. But it came out of this sudden, like, 4 races left. JRM just all of a sudden came out of the box swinging and suddenly decimated absolutely everybody. So my question is, was that just a temp thing? We've had a little bit of time off now, so is JRM going to keep up that speed? Or is it going to go back to being Bobby McCarty land, especially considering that the Autos by Nelson and the Barry Nelson crew has had a little bit of success lately? There was this guy called Timothy Peters who went out and won at Talladega. Yeah, I know it wasn't the same team, but it helps that the sponsors are on board and everything. And before we leave this point, one more point we do want to make, Jessica Dana also making her late model stock debut at Sobo as well.
Yeah, I want to actually give a huge hand to Bobby McCarty in the season he's had. I mean, this is an absolute breakout year for him and Barry Nelson's crew. 4 wins, no finishes outside the top 10 in 11 late model stock Cars Tour races this season, a 20-point lead over Lee Pulliam going into the final race. I mean, barring an absolute collapse, Bobby McCarty's going to be crowned champion this weekend. I think the question still remains on the super late model side, because Ralph Lessard is only 8 points back of Jared Fryer going into this championship race. So I don't think that battle's over at all. But McCarty, what a year he's had, Tom. I mean, I give that Nelson Motorsports team so much credit for what they came into this series and did this year. And to beat Lee Pulliam, are you kidding me? When you do that, you've done something, man.
Well, here's what's funny to me is that I've been around long enough to remember Bobby Mack when he was about this high, racing go-karts. And, used to watch him run all the time at the indoor race that they have in December every year up in Greensboro, the King of the Concrete race. Yeah. And now here he is tearing up the Cars Tour. Yes. Bobby proved the talent that we all thought he had in the karts. And he's been committed, he's been focused and been dedicated. And you're right, he's had a great season. And I think he's got the title in my, I think he's, and on the super side of things, not only do I agree that I don't think the super title is over, remember what happened at Martinsville yesterday? Yeah. Watch out at South Boston on Saturday in the super late race, because we all know that Ralph Lessard is not afraid to ruffle feathers.
No,
and there's a championship at stake here.
Yes, there
is. And remember who he races for.
Yes, he does.
Okay.
That would be Kyle Busch.
That would be Kyle Busch.
Uninitiated.
Yes.
Cisco, I know you want to make a point about Colin Garrett's super late model debut, but I want to also toss you this little nugget and get your thoughts. Should he come from behind and make up those 8 points, Rafael Lessard would become the first repeat champion in either division in Cars Tour history. Of course, doing so on the super late model side. If he can pull it off, how big a statement is that?
Yeah, and keep in mind, of course, this isn't back-to-back. He won in 2016,
right.
He won in 2018, but nonetheless, no, you're absolutely right, Jacob. That's a huge statement that Rafi, I think, is ready to move up to some bigger cars and stuff like that. But, yeah, I did want to make the note that Colin Garrett will be making his Cars Tour debut at Sobo, as well as another driver who's putting his name into the conversation, Brandon Lynn, going to be hopping back in the car at Sobo as well.
Yeah, Brandon made some ARCA starts for Venturini Motorsports not too terribly long ago. I think it was last year he was in the car for them a couple of times. Cisco, out of curiosity, on the Colin Garrett side, is that for Sellers Hunt?
Yes, it is. Sellers and at Fed Hood Racing.
Combination between
that's interesting.
So he drives for Peyton Sellers and Sam Hunt. In the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East does Colin Garrett.
Yeah.
But when you add Jamie Yelton and Fathead into the mix, that could be potent right there.
That's interesting. It's that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah,
and by the
really
way, in the wheelhouse of this show, you mentioned Venturini Motorsports.
Oh, yes, there was that
big announcement this past week.
That thing that Christian Eckes was teasing us about.
Yeah, when he was on a couple weeks ago, he was teasing us that something was coming, and we all thought it was a full-time truck announcement. Yeah. But full-time ARCA for Christian Eckes with Venturini Motorsports next year. That puts Venturini right back in the middle of the championship hunt.
Yes,
in
it
that
does.
series.
And they are looking for their first drivers' championship in a couple of decades. It goes all the way back to when Big Bill Venturini won his
it's been that long.
Drivers' championships. Christian trying to become the first non-Venturini to win Venturini Motorsports a driver's title, and that, to me, is huge. I call them the title favorites right now.
I would say, yeah, I think the road to the championship goes through Christian Eckes. What we know now.
Yes.
Going into next year, we'll see where everything else falls. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we have got more as we finish strong here on the Stock Car Show, presented by HMS Motorsport and My Computer Career. Don't go anywhere.
Wendy.
Welcome back to the Stock Car Show, presented by HMS Motorsport and My Computer Career. Tom Baker, Jacob Seelman, Cisco Scaramuza, and Randy Miller over there in the tech shed.
Before you get too far away from the re-entry, I want to give Kaz Gralla props.
Okay, give him props.
All right. Because Kaz Gralla won a race over the weekend.
Oh, yes, he did. Yeah, and I guess it was an endurance.
It was a 12-hour endurance race at New Jersey Motorsports Park, sanctioned by
with
SCCA.
A funny name.
What
was it?
It's called Devil in the Dark. It's a 12-hour sports car endurance race. 3 hours to go. They were P2. They ended up winning it. Kaz was one of the co-drivers. It was sanctioned by SCCA. So, hey, Kaz, we're paying attention even though you're not running NASCAR. Congrats,
Good job,
man.
brother. Yeah, that was a great win for him. The Cisco, the name Devil in the Dark, I guess that's appropriate for a pre-Halloween event, right?
I think it's probably part of that, and I wanted to check with Jacob. I'm assuming that track doesn't have lights all the way around the circuit, hence why there's a little bit of a devil in the dark, because unless your headlights are working, it could be a little bit of an issue.
I believe that's correct, yes. I don't think New Jersey has lights all the way around Thunderbolt Raceway. It's most of them, but yes, headlights are a good thing.
Also,
Crazy.
yeah, that would not be fun. And knowing, the brief night racing I've done in iRacing, Tom, it's no comparison really. But still, when you can't see, that's not good when you're going 100 miles an hour.
No, it isn't. What was it? I was part of a video shoot at Summit Point Kart in Washington D.C. last weekend, and that course there are 3 different tracks on this complex. It's an outdoor deal similar to GoPro Motorplex, but not exactly like it. And what they do at night, they do have lights around the what they call the beginner track, which is still pretty tight and difficult, but they actually put little lights on top of your helmet. So you have a light on your helmet. You have your own personal headlight.
Yes.
It pretty doggone cool. The GoPro footage we got at night was just fantastic. And so interesting. Congratulations to Kaz. Now, want to get to, we didn't even have a chance to talk about the other big thing from Martinsville, which was the new sponsor for Jimmy Johnson.
Yes.
Ally Bank, Ally Financial,
yep.
coming on board with 7-time for the next couple of seasons as the primary sponsor. So this isn't going to be a split sponsorship type situation. Ally is basically taking Lowe's place pretty much, right, Jacob?
Races.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I want to say thank you to Jessica Stroop with everybody at Team Chevy and everybody at Hendrick Motorsports. I actually was able to hop just about right in the middle of the media huddle underneath the NBC Peacock pit box right after the announcement was made prior to the race, and we got to talk with Jimmy, with Mr. Hendrick, and with Jeffrey Brown, the CEO of Ally Financial. And Cisco is going to I'll help make Cisco's point here, and then we can talk about the significance of replacing a 38-race primary sponsor with another 38-race primary sponsor. This is not a new sponsor. Ally Financial has been with Hendrick Motorsports and Hendrick Automotive Group for a long time. For those of you who were paying attention to NASCAR back in the middle of the last decade, about 2005, 2006, 2007, and remember the Hendrick Motorsports cars having GMAC on the side of their cars? Yeah, that's the same company. Cisco, not new sponsor, old sponsor coming back.
No,
go ahead, Cisco.
And what's interesting is this goes back to the 90s, Tom, and, with Jack Sprague, Ricky Hendrick, of course, most notably in his number 5 car, as well as that Brian Vickers taking over that ride as well. That's probably the most prominent we've seen that sponsor in the past.
Well, but technically Jacob is right.
Yes,
it's the
in May 2010, GMAC rebranded itself as Ally Financial.
But it's
company.
more than just GMAC. Chrysler actually is involved in this.
Chrysler Capital.
Chrysler Capital as a minority. So it technically, yes, it's the same company, but it's
bigger
kind
now
of not.
than what it was.
It's much bigger than it was. And so good to see Ally coming on board in such a big way. And, of course, we talked about this when Jimmy, when it was announced that Lowe's was leaving, we talked on this show, and I said there's going to be no shortage of companies that want that space because if you understand how the marketing game works, it's all about available inventory and basically what you would call real estate. And a company like Ally makes perfect sense because not only do you get Jimmy Johnson, the race car, and all of the accoutrements that go with that, the benefits that go with that, but you also get Rick Hendrick's dealerships and all of the sort of, opportunity that lies there as well. So, the teams like Hendrick and Penske that have other interests outside of just the race team or teams can certainly make a big difference for a company like Ally.
Yes.
So I knew there wouldn't be any problem finding enough people to fill the space, but for Ally to just jump on for all 36 races, that's pretty doggone amazing.
It absolutely is. And Cisco, I will say this here. It's fun to see Ally come back into the sport now. Obviously, before they were GMAC, but to see them come back now and to already see the activation that they're doing, not just with Jimmy, but with the entire sport. You saw TV spots. You saw interaction from the broadcast booth on Sunday during the race. I mean, this is much more than just a primary sponsorship on a race car. And Jeffrey Brown said that. He said, we want to bring energy to this sport. They're already proving that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I when you look at one of probably their main competitors in Credit One Bank, who's also been a part of the sport as of late, I think we're gonna see a little bit of that. It's kind of Jimmy's gotten himself back into the company wars. Before it was the home improvement wars between Home Depot, Menards, and Lowe's, and now he's apparently getting into the banking wars. But nonetheless, it's cool to see. And just kind of one of those last notes about Lowe's. This is certainly a case where I think they got really everything they ever wanted, ever needed out of this sponsorship. And as the old example with Tide went. Tide kind of just hit a point where they didn't really need to sponsor anymore, because how many more Tide Pods are you going to shift, or how many more boxes of Tide detergent are you going to be able to sell, considering everybody already bought it and everything like that? I felt like there was a similar scenario with Lowe's, to where they kind of won that battle in home improvement, though technically Menards won. But I feel like they got more than enough of the brand recognition. And I think that'll also stay for a very long time, because you're going to see pictures of Jimmy Johnson's car with Lowe's on it for the next 50, 100 years, just like you see pictures of STP on Richard Petty's car, or GM Goodwrench on Dale Earnhardt's car. I mean, it was one of those super long-term relationships.
Well, the thing is, though, I know what you're saying about but I'll disagree slightly when it comes to Lowe's situation is a company-wide restructuring from a financial standpoint, believe it or not. And companies like Tide, it's not so much that they figure they can't sell anymore. Remember, a big part of motorsports marketing is business-to-business possibilities, but it just comes to a point where every once in a while you want to just shuffle the deck and take your marketing dollars somewhere else, not because you're not happy with what you're getting over here, but you want to try something different. This is what Target did. It isn't that they weren't happy with NASCAR or didn't like what they were getting. They just wanted to try and approach a different audience. There's only so many dollars to go around. So, that's kind of where all of that sort of falls in. But Ally coming in is interesting because in a time when NASCAR is thinking about the post-single cup sponsor era, when Monster leaves after next year, and wants to look at this multi-tiered thing, it's going to be interesting to see if this brings more financial institutions in, because I definitely think that you could see a little bit of copycat as we get into. Now that Allies signed on, some of its competitors might be willing to jump into the water too.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it could crack a whole new wave of sponsors into this sport, which is a great thing.
Yeah, it is. And again, everybody thinks, the sport is not a good value. Well, here comes Ally Bank into this. Now, again, I know you get Hendricks dealerships and all that too. And Ally's been a big part of what's been going on there. But at the same time, this is also a signal, I think, that in fact the sport isn't a poor value. The sport is still a good value, and I think it's headed to be a better value as we go forward. And, we start to see some of these changes come in 2020 post. I think you're going to see a little bit of a resurgence from some of these corporations. I don't know that they'll all jump in for 36 races, but you got to have an awfully big budget to be able to do that. But I certainly think this is going to be good for the sport. Okay, so we've got about 3 minutes, maybe 2 minutes left. Real quickly, the KKM Give Back Classic, what's going on in practice there?
So we're basically 2 hours in, and I want to give a call to the fact that right now the top 5 of 51 carts that signed in for practice here are 52 carts now. We've added the 71 of Dylan Smith. But the top 5 right now are all Millbridge track regulars, which I think says a lot about what's to come over the next 2 days. Not that the Invaders can't do something, but I think the regulars this year, unlike in May, going to be very tough to beat. Andrew Worley, this year's Saturday champion and Rookie of the Year, currently fastest after turning 45 laps, 10.118. He's almost a tenth and a half up on Lil Bundy, Ethan Mitchell, by the way.
Wow.
Caden Quapple and Carson Quapple, 3rd and 5th in the order. And Tyler Letarte, son of Steve Letarte, is 4th, less than a week after his cart nearly went out of the ballpark in turns 3 and 4, if you didn't see that on Instagram.
Little Pop-Tart.
Yes, Little
Pop-Tart. Tyler Letarte, what's he, about 14 now?
Yes, 14.
Okay. Yeah, he definitely is not running the Chili Bowl if he wins, but nonetheless,
he looks like he's 16.
Yeah, he does. He's a bigger kid for his age, but and he's a good racer too.
He is.
Yeah,
I'm
for sure.
very excited to see what Tyler can do here, especially going into next year. He's getting comfortable in the Open, and I think he's going to be a threat to win the championship in 2019, frankly. And I believe right now. Checkered flag?
Checkered flag, and I'm stealing it tonight.
Okay.
Thanks to everyone with the Performance Motorsports Network and Spreaker for being such great partners with us. Also, thanks to HMS Motorsport and our new partner, mycomputercareer.edu. Go check them out and see what they're doing with IT training. And I also want to say a special thank you to our guests of this evening, as well as my esteemed co-hosts, Cisco Scaramuza, Randy Miller, Jacob Seelman, who blew in like the Tasmanian devil for the second hour of the show. For all of us here at Race Chaser Media and the Stock Car Show, we say thank you for listening or watching. Have a great night, a great week. I'm going to go learn to talk again. Bye.
You've been listening to the Stock Car Show on the Performance Motorsports Network. Stay tuned to Performance Motorsports Network for more race talk. For the latest motorsports news, visit racechaseronline.com. The Stock Car Show is a copyrighted production of the Performance Motorsports Network. www.performancemotorsportsnetwork.com. A member of the Scorpion Radio Group Incorporated, and may not be rebroadcast, replicated, or saved in any media without the explicit written permission of PMN. Check out our Facebook page or our section on the PMN website. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host, co-host, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect those of the management and ownership of either the Performance Motorsports Network or Scorpion Radio Group Incorporated, the advertisers, or the marketing partners. Be listening again next week when the Stock Car Show returns on Thursday night at 7 Eastern. Until then, stay tuned for more great motorsports programming on the Performance Motorsports Network.